Go live. Are we up? I think we're up. I'll let you know, Todd. Lauren, give me a heads up. I think we're good to go. We're live. Everything's good. Oh, the volume is turned up on my phone. That'll be a problem. What's up, everybody? It took us some time to figure this out. The technical difficulties were real, but I am here, joined by my good friend, Todd Gary, aka He Runs on Tequila, aka He Runs on Beer, aka He Runs on Bourbon.
Yes.
What are you drinking
Bourbon
tonight,
now, man.
Todd?
You got to keep up with it.
I was telling you, I think I've given Todd a different nickname in every video I've posted so far, but we're sticking with He Runs on Bourbon, or I Run on Bourbon.
Thank you, sir.
What do you got, my
Happy to
man?
be here. What?
What are you drinking?
Drinking Old Forester 1920 Prohibition style, 115 proof.
Oh, and you've already got a comment. My dad says great bourbon choice. He's a big bourbon head, so that's
Yes.
high praise. And I've
Yes.
got, sorry to disappoint, Dad, no bourbon on my end, just summer break session hazy IPA, but delicious and refreshing. And obviously, it's an I Run on Beer happy hour, so I had to go with beer. So, thank you everyone for joining the live stream. To get things going, this is really supposed to be an interactive happy hour where you can ask us anything about training for this Mohican 100-mile challenge. We'll kind of get into the specifics on what the race is and what that's going to look like. But any questions you have about training, our mental state preparing for this race, why the hell we decided to do such a thing, feel free to put those in the comments below. And a bunch of people submitted questions on Instagram as well. So I'll be doing my best to get to all of those questions as we go through. But to start things off, since I am joined by special guest today, I figure it would be nice to just kind of go through our running history, Todd, because we have been running together for quite some time. So Todd and I met in high school and ran high school cross country together. And didn't, I mean, I can't speak for Todd, but I will just say for myself, didn't have a ton of athletic ambition in high school, so didn't take cross country too seriously. And then cut to a few years ago when I decided to run my first marathon. Todd, you had already run at least one marathon, if I'm not mistaken, before
Mm-hmm.
Coastal Delaware. We ran Coastal Delaware Marathon together. The next year, we ran Rock and Roll DC Marathon together. And then after that race was when we decided to make the jump to ultra marathons. Both of us jumped straight from the marathon distance to 100K, Bandera
Mm-hmm.
100K, 62 miles. So 26.2 miles to 62 miles, quite a jump. But I think that race went surprisingly well, all things considered. Kind of perfect weather, perfect condition, and great race overall. And so then, of course, the next logical step was to jump from 100-kilometer race to 100-mile race. And that's where we are currently getting ready for Mohican 100-miler. So Todd, I figured I would let you answer this first question because I'd love to hear your response. But why did we choose Mohican, or how did we end up finding Mohican, or just running a 100-miler in general?
I think it all just comes down to this is like the same thing everyone says, but just seeing, like, testing your personal limits, seeing how far what your body is kind of capable of doing. Um, like you said, we started cross country back in. I mean, were you doing it freshman year, or did I talk you into it sophomore year?
You talked me into it senior year. I did a different sport every year of high school because we were required to do one sport in high school. So my freshman year, I did track. My sophomore
Mm-hmm.
year, I wrestled. My junior year, I think I just did health and fitness. And then senior year, you finally wrote me into doing cross country.
That's right. And yeah, you're right. Like we never really took cross country that seriously in high school. I mean, I remember practices where we, would sneak off and, sneak into that old factory down the road and like kind of like just hang out like whenever could get away from the coaches. But no, I mean, we had some good races, our times improved, but I never thought I'd be doing anything like, I didn't think I was going to be doing marathon running or anything like that. No one in my family really did, but I don't know. Running was kind of a way to keep me from, dieting, and I could continue to eat whatever I had wanted as long as I would run crazy distances. And I still do it.
I think that's a perfect representation of the motivation. I would just also say for my parents who are watching, Todd was just kidding about breaking into that old abandoned factory. We totally never did that during cross country practice.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's a joke.
I would also say, and then Mohican specifically, we were playing around with the idea of doing a 100 miler, and we were originally looking at a 24-hour race in Michigan. There was just a bunch of consecutive loops, and we were going to try to run 100 miles, but it sounded super boring, and it wasn't confirmed if the race was going to happen because of COVID protocols. And I'm not sure if this guy is on the chat or not. A good friend of mine, Ben Lammers, was the first one who reached out to me and recommended Mohican. And at first I was like, this is insane. It's so hilly. This seems like a really aggressive choice for a first 100 miler. But then as COVID went on and as we haven't run any in-person races, I started to talk to you about it and was like, hey, a friend of mine told me about this race. What do you think? And then a few beers later and we were registered. So.
Well, you dropped this in, what was it, February?
I think
Like telling me
so.
about?
Yeah.
February. So like normally people make the jump to 100 miles. It takes, I hear like 6 months, 8 months of training. So what, that gave us what, four months?
Couple
so
weeks.
Like do some Rocky style training regimen to get ready for this. And, sorry, that's my dog. I apologize, everyone.
All dogs are welcome.
All dogs are welcome. Thank you. But no, this I wasn't in the best of shape when you told me about this, but like I was psyched, and I've been stir crazy too because of COVID. I missed the in-person races. I know you kind of dabbled in the what were you doing? It was like the
I did some virtual races. I did some virtual challenges.
Yeah.
And they were really fun early on, especially trying to do like time trials and trying to set new PRs at shorter distances. But for the longer races, I was just dying to get back to an in-person race. And I do feel like what better way to get back to in-person racing than almost double the distance you've ever run before?
Yeah. It there's definitely a lot more factors going into this that make me nervous. Mainly just like the weather, because I've been training up in Michigan, kind of in the cold, and I'm not really sure, whether we're dealing with 80s, 90s, like really humid thunderstorms. Who knows? I mean, there's so much. There's a lot more that can go wrong in these, and even if you have a perfect day, so much can go wrong. So I don't know. I'm pumped either way. Even I can't get in the mindset of not finishing, because if you go in with that mindset, then you're automatically probably going to fail. But
Exactly.
I'm just like, I'm even just the attempt of doing this is like, it's got me pretty psyched.
That's what
I'm looking forward to it.
I 100% agree. Just the experience of it. Like, I feel like this is going to be so different than anything I've tried before that no matter what happens, like, it's going to be an epic day. And of course, before we move on to the next segment, I got to show off. The joke is we always do these races for the bling, right? For the belt buckle. And I think I have the ability. But back to us now. So you actually started to talk about sort of being concerned about the weather, and that was one of the questions we got. I did want to touch on from people asking what our biggest fears were or worries were going into the race. So you mentioned temperature. This race is June 19th and 20th, so end of June. Average temperatures are anywhere from like mid 70s to high 80s. So yeah, temperature is definitely going to be a factor. But any other concerns for you going into the race?
Mainly, it was having enough time to get off work. That was a big concern too. After, for anyone who cares, I fly for a regional airline, and even after Bandera, I think I might have had even 4 or 5 days off. But even then, I felt like I was really pushing it. I was kind of like, you know, limping around the airport a little bit getting to the plane. I shouldn't be saying any of this probably. But, I have a solid week off after the run, which I'm extremely thankful for, and that was probably my biggest fear, was having enough time between this race and afterwards, where I probably won't feel like a human for like 24 to 48 hours to like the recovery stage. I've been doing a lot of cryotherapy. I keep telling you to do it. I think you should do it at least once before the
I
race.
think I'll see if I can fit one in once. It's definitely on my radar for after this race, trying the cryotherapy and seeing if freezing my legs helps with the pain that I'll be experiencing. But I would agree with you. Heat is probably up there as my number one concern. Recovery is definitely up there. I would also say I don't necessarily think it's like something I'm worried about, but just something I have no idea what to expect, and that's the overnight portion. So we are going to run through a full night. The race starts at 5 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and we will probably finish sometime Sunday morning. So we're going to be running for 24-ish, maybe more hours. And
Right.
so just having no idea like what I'm going to feel like having run for that long and then still running at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. But I am happy that we'll have a friend with us who's going to pace us for the final loop. So we'll have Todd and I are running the race together, but we have a third person. Our friend Luke is joining us just for the last loop. So the race is 4 25-ish mile loops. I think the first two loops are 26, 27 miles, and then the last two loops are a bit shorter, closer to 23 miles. So our friend Luke is joining us for that last 23-mile loop. Just to like help us out and make sure that we can navigate okay while our minds are a little bit deteriorated from running, but then just reminding us of simple things like helping us navigate the trail, reminding us to eat, reminding us to drink, etc., and just overall being there for moral support. So I think that's going to be huge to get us through when we're in a relatively zombie state.
Yeah, and biggest thing for me, especially if it's high 80s or like low 90s, if it's ungodly hot out, my biggest thing is just being able to cover as many miles as we can while it's dark, while we're not dealing with the sun, like, bearing down on us. Because that was, I mean, you remember at Bandera how much your heart rate went down as soon as the sun set and things cooled down. Like my heart rate went from like 155, 160 to drop to like 130,
Yeah.
and and 120 even less. And like it seemed we got into some sort of flow state towards the end there where it was night, like we were tired, but like I don't know about you, I felt like I could have continued after we finished.
Yeah,
Like,
I felt like I still had gas in the tank for sure.
yeah, so like the thing is just being able to utilize that, that nighttime even after we've covered like 50, 60, 70 miles. Like, it's crazy to think about. um, it's just such like unknown territory. Like, I don't know how my body's gonna react, but
Yeah, and I also think that's something so weird that people might not understand who have never done something like this too, is like if you're used to running shorter distances, you're running at an all-out effort, and by the time you finish, like you are so exhausted, you just couldn't imagine going any further. But I feel like during ultras, you're constantly at like a maintainable pace, something more comfortable. Sometimes you're running, sometimes you're hiking, etc. And because of that,
yeah,
you go through like waves where in the heat of the day, like when it's 80 some degrees and you're going up a hill, you feel like you can't take another step. But then all of a sudden,
yep.
you get over the peak of that hill, you start going downhill, you get a nice breeze, and all of a sudden, you get a second burst of energy. Like there's so many peaks and valleys throughout the day, like feeling good,
Mm-hmm.
feeling exhausted, that I just feel like people in anything marathon or below don't necessarily experience.
Sure. And just really being able to take your time and like the slow pace you're expecting to go, even going a lot slower than that. Like, I mean, your goal is to maybe try and break 24 hours in this, which was what, like around 4.2 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like, for the average person, that seems like pathetic, but like, multiply that by 24 hours.
Yeah, I will say doing the 4 state challenge was definitely a wake up call. At just how perfect the conditions were when we ran Bandera. Like that race, I don't think could have gone any better. The fact that like both of us finished with energy left, we felt we hit that peak again, like you said, when the sun went down. We all of a sudden got this second wave of energy. We were cruising, we were continuing to run. The weather was beautiful, and then doing this 43-mile run on the Appalachian Trail when it was 80 some odd degrees, and then falling behind in calories with what I was eating, probably not drinking enough water, and I hit some real low moments that I had not experienced before. But I think that was exactly what I needed to like remind myself how much more training I need to put in for Mohican and how much more detailed I need to be with my strategy to make sure that doesn't happen at this race.
Well, yeah, and this probably jumps into another question further down the line that I'm maybe kind of answering, but like how imperative I think it is to like start out at a relatively solid pace with as little. I'm probably gonna have like not very much gear at all that first loop. I'll probably bring the poles and maybe a water bottle, but like I don't need gear. Like it's going to be a large portion of it's going to be in the dark and at dusk where the sun's not beating down on us. But I feel like that second loop is going to be, if we can keep up a solid maybe 5-mile-an-hour pace for those first 6 hours and then jump into that second loop where we can just kind of power hike a large majority of it, but also with the sun beating down on us and with the temperatures as high as they'll probably be, like I'm in like survival mode at that point. Like I'm just gonna have like all my gear, like all out my hydration stuff,
Yep.
like extra tailwind, all this stuff, like ready to go. Because like I feel like that's where we're gonna like probably suffer the most.
Yeah, and I think that's same thing. It's kind of my strategy too, but I want to start early with just like eating and drinking almost constantly, like taking in calories every 30 minutes tops and just always sipping on water to make sure there's never a deficit. I've always got the tank full of hydration, always plenty of calories. I mean, we're going to run a calorie deficit for the day. There's no way around that, but trying to minimize that deficit as much as possible by just eating.
Yeah.
That's, I think, something I'm going to be spending a lot of time doing the next few weeks is testing out different foods on long runs to find what sticks. Because I failed miserably at that at my last run attempt.
Yeah. What's your official like taper moment?
I have no idea. I'm thinking it'll probably be like 10-ish days. A week to 10 days
Yeah.
would be my guess. I'm not doing anything too crazy. I did that 43-mile run. That's the longest run I'll do in training for sure.
Yeah.
And now it's just kind of tweaking what I can. So doing a lot more strength training to make sure my legs are a little bit more prepared. I'm going to try to do some heat training as well, just to get adapted to working out in the heat so that hopefully it doesn't impact me as much. But my long runs aren't anything too crazy. I'm running like 10 miles at a time or something like that. I'm sure I might do like a 20-ish mile run, maybe somewhere in the 20 to 30 range, but nothing too substantial. And then taper 7 to 10 days before.
Yeah. Weekly, what are you sort of maxing at? Because that I'm around 40, and I hear people say like, no, you'd be doing like 50 or 60. But like realistically, with work and everything, like most I can do is probably 40. And I'm just concerned about injuries at this point. Like I don't know. Did you ever have runner's knee at any point? Did that weeks? I don't remember.
So I never had like runner's knee. I did have issues with my IT band though, and so yeah, I took like 3 or 4 weeks off a little while ago because my knee was just really bugging me.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I'm in the same boat. I don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize how my legs are feeling on race day. I do want to jump in. We got a question. Lauren had asked this previously, but is asking it again in the chat. Also, just to let you know, Vince has tuned in and says, "What's up, guys?" Vince is another great friend of ours from high school.
Hi, Vince.
But Lauren wants to know what food you are thinking about eating at this moment.
Right now?
Like, or for the race, what foods do you think you're going to take with you on course? And I'm also just going to give a quick apology to people watching. For some reason, your video's doing like this weird glitchy thing. I hope people are all right, but I'm trying to fix it. It just keeps getting bigger and smaller on the screen.
That's weird.
I think it's fixed.
Foods that I think I can easily get down, probably quesadillas and grilled cheese, stuff like that. Just a lot of like simple carbs type stuff, really. I tell you about this. I don't know why every aid station has bananas, because I can't eat a banana and not like, it's just like a texture thing. Like I just gag every time like someone hands one of those to me, like during a race. Like there's some things after a couple miles, I just don't want anywhere near me. Like,
yeah, I can't do bananas. The consistency of bananas, absolutely no way. There's a story I won't get into now about just me trying to force feed myself a banana before a half marathon in Montreal a few years back, just because that was the only food that was available and I knew I needed it and I just could not get it down. But I'm thinking the same thing you are. Cheese quesadilla, I think, is going to be huge. Just somewhat bland, but calorie dense foods that I can take in that I think will be appetizing when it's 80 degrees and I'm exhausted.
Yeah. I these last couple of long runs, I would do like 20 miles and then stop and be like, what could I just like destroy right now? Like the list kind of gets narrower and narrower, like the further distance you cover. But
that's exactly my strategy.
I can always crush a quesadilla no matter how far I go. That's going to be a lot of what I'm eating.
Alexis wanted to clarify she is also on the call on or on the video on Vince's account with him, but she had three questions for us. I want to ask one of them, which was I'm going to ask a couple of them, but one right now.
Is it on
What
my shirt?
mile? No, what mile or hour into the race do you think we're going to say, why the hell did we sign up for this?
It's a good question. Mm. At Bandera at the end, I mentally I kind of wasn't all there. I think around maybe the depressing miles were around like somewhere between like 35, 40-ish, like knowing you still had like more than like a half marathon to go. And there was still so much of the race left to do. I think like with the loops at Mohican, maybe like the third one will be the most depressing because you're still just you have such a insurmountable amount of miles left to go. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's gonna we made the joke at Bandera and I think it's gonna be the same thing now. Like at the starting line, we were just like, it's so hard to fathom the fact that we're about to start running and with no idea when we're gonna finish. Like we're just gonna start now and we're gonna keep going. And I feel like the starting line for this is going to be like, we're going to start now and we're not going to finish for a day. And it's just like, I feel like that's going to be a weird moment. But yeah, in terms of like the what the hell am I doing here? Like, this is insane. I think it's going to be peak heat. I think is going to be like lower moments. But I would agree in terms of loops. The third loop is probably going to be the roughest because, like, when you're going the first half of the race, I feel like we'll be feeling pretty good. And like you're knocking off miles towards that first half, but then I feel like there's just a moment once you're halfway where it just feels like it's dragging, like you're not making significant progress. And I feel like that combined with the heat and being in that weird third loop where it's not the last loop, it's just one more that we have to do to get closer. It's
Yeah.
just going to be hard on morale.
Yeah,
Oh, and
especially once we're in the dark and it's like loop 3 and we still have another loop to go and we're like stumbling around and like don't know what's happening anymore.
Exactly, which is when
Probably
it's going to
around
be great to have Luke to help us out.
there. Yeah.
I want
Thanks,
to give
Luke.
another shout out. It looks like Ultra Dad just joined the chat, and I know he will be joining us at Mohican and has run it in the past. And he also ran Bandera the same year that we did as well. So we've crossed paths with him a few times, and I'm definitely looking forward to sharing the trail with him at Mohican as well.
Oh, what's up, Ultra Dad?
Oh, and yeah, Ultra Dad, he has a channel as well. People should go check out because Todd actually, when we first signed up for Mohican, recommended Ultra Dad's video to look at some of the trail footage and things like that to get ready for the terrain, because that is something we definitely need to prepare for.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Going through some of the questions. Oh, this is a good one. Presently Fit from Instagram, who is Laura from Bibrave, wanted to know what we are most looking forward to about the race besides finishing, of course. And I'll just
I don't know, just the satisfaction of knowing that your body can go through something like that, 24 hours of hell, and just come out on top. And hey, you get a cool belt buckle with it too. But probably gonna I'll also have to get some shirts and maybe a sweatshirt because this is probably gonna be a one-time deal.
Yeah, I am in the same boat. I don't know that I'll do this again. And in a similar vein, all jokes aside, I would say I am just most looking forward to the experience of it all. Like I just feel like you said, having no idea what this is going to be like or what to expect, just preparing as much as we can and going into it with an open mind and looking forward to finding out what the result is going to be and where we're going to go, what places we're going to visit, and how we're going to come out on the other end. Just excited to see what that's like.
Yeah, the ultra running community, they're a weird group of people. Like they do like they like to suffer. That's strange to me, but
yeah.
like
That's and that's
there's that girl that was like there's a lot of like cacti in this next part, and I'm like she was like pumped about it. I was like, you guys are freaking crazy.
yeah. I will say that's another thing I'll say that I'm looking forward to. If it's similar to Bandera, which I'm guessing it is, and like you said, just ultra runners are such a different breed of runner and such a unique community. It was so cool at Bandera, like catching up to a group of people or catching up to a person and then just running for 5 or 6 miles with them, learning where they're coming from, what their story is, etc. Like there's no other race besides ultras where you're running at a little bit slower of a distance, so you can stop to have full conversations with people. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Although
Maybe
I'm told
seeing.
that that's what you have to do for the first like 30 miles. You should be, you know, you should be able to have a conversation with the guy next to, or else you're not doing it right.
Yeah, we definitely.
Meaning
I
keeping your heart rate down, like no matter
Yep.
what.
Slow and steady wins the race, Todd.
We need music, man. This is gonna
That I was,
go.
and it's hilarious because I was about to say another question we got from Alexis, which I think the answer may be different than it was at Bandera, was do are we going to listen to music while we run together, or do we just talk? And at Bandera, we didn't listen to anything. We
No.
just ran that whole race, and we didn't talk the whole time either. Like you just kind of go through states where you're running, like you're just kind of silently suffering through it. But we'd
Yep.
always like every few minutes just drop a line, what's going on, and talk like that. But I felt no need to turn on any podcasts or music or anything like that.
Yeah.
This race might be different.
Well, I mean, not like putting headphones in, but maybe like putting, if you have, for emergencies, like, I don't like to say that, but like, I've seen footage of like snakes on like the trail and stuff. Like, say some crazy stuff happens, one of us needs to use our phone, but like, I don't know, just having something on speaker to just kind of pass the time. I had like a 6 hour long run I did in West Michigan, this park, the Dune Park I was telling you about, and like, I got to a point where like I got done, I drove home, you know, took the dog to the dog park, had dinner, went to bed, woke up the next morning, and I was like, all of that crap I did yet, all the rest of yesterday, I would still be out there running. Like it's so crazy, man.
Just gonna keep going.
we need music.
Yeah, and I will say we went down to Bandera before the race to run a practice run on the trails. And for that we had some music playing on speaker through a phone for a little while. So we can always break that back out for this race.
I had strep throat too, and I was recovering from
Oh
that.
yeah, I
I
remember.
was still sick,
I
and I was
forgot
like, "Nah,
about
I'm
that.
going out." And we
Yeah,
went to
you
get
told me
your
that. You were like, I
cowboy hat,
think
and you
I'm
were like, "Oh,
recovering.
we got your cowboy hat, like our cowboy hats, and like you were all sweaty, and we were just sweating all over, like trying it on." I was like, "Yeah, just buy that one, man.
Yeah, yep. This
These guys
cowboy
don't
hat
like
right
that."
here, Todd.
Yeah.
This is my ultra marathon hat forever now. Ultra Dad has a question which we touched on but didn't get necessarily into specifics, and that's just clarifying that the aid stations are very well supported, which I'm happy to hear because I read a review from several years ago that made it sound like they were not very well stocked, but it looked like they had improved since then. So thank you for confirming that the aid stations will be well stocked with supplies. But wants to know what does your training plan look like for the next 2 to 3 weeks? Like, are there any focus areas or anything like that? I know we talked a little bit about mileage and just trying not to get injured, preserving what we've built up so far. But anything specific you're working on?
More stretching. I was always horrible about stretching, but more stretching. I'm doing more cryotherapy. I don't know if it's helping or not, but all the aches and pains kind of go away for a while. Let's see. Yeah, just keeping my volume to a manageable, like the weekly mileage volume, keeping it to, not going too crazy. I think like the longest long run, like 25, that's probably going to be the longest one I do. Um, Not to say I won't be doing like back to back, like maybe 10 or like 150 mile and 120 mile, or like back to back, like um, 48 hours. But um, I'm probably going to do like 10 to 14 day taper, because I'm kind of nervous about injuries at this point.
Yeah.
I don't want to, like, I've come far enough to where I don't want to ruin this like right at the last moment. Am I answering the question? I'm not really.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say, and I feel like coming off of the IT band issue, I'm in a similar place, just where I feel like the best way to describe it is my legs feel strong right now because I'm doing tons of strength training, but when I'm running, they feel so fragile. Like any little thing that I do wrong could somehow
Yeah.
ruin this. And I'm sure part of that is just nerves preparing for the race. Like you put so much time training into training for this, and then any little thing can throw it off. But for me, training over the next couple weeks is back-to-back long runs pretty much every weekend. So nothing too crazy, but right now it's like 10 miles, Saturday, 10 miles, Sunday, or doing like I did 10 miles on hills, like just running up and down a hill last Saturday, and then another 10 miles the next week, or the next weekend, or next day. God, man, I can't speak. That's what happy hour does to me. Um, and then
Yeah.
so
Get on my level, man.
continuing to repeat that over the next couple of weeks. Also building in longer runs during the week, so like 8 or 9 mile runs in the mornings on the weekdays. And then it sounds like at some point my coach wants to have me do like a wake up super early in the morning, so I'm very tired, and putting in like a significant effort long run very early in the morning, like 3 4 in the morning, run for 2 to 3 hours, take a quick nap, and then wake up and run like another 2 hours. So that'll probably be the longest run that I do, or longest day of training I have before the race. I'm guessing that won't be this weekend or next weekend, but probably the weekend after, just to try to replicate what it's going to feel like running in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say the other big thing is just, and as much as I hate dieting, I gotta diet. I'm trying to lose another like 10 to 15 pounds in the next month, which is doable. Not thanks to this. I was supposed to be sober for the last month, but you talked me into doing the happy hour. So
Well,
here I
I
am.
didn't know. You told me after you got on the call that you were supposed to be cutting out alcohol this month.
No, it's fine. This is my last beverage before I think.
I believe in you,
But yeah,
Todd.
just losing the last, like, because when you told me about this in February, I was over 200 and I was trying to get back down to like 170. Um, like you're kind of more built for this than I am. I think like you're kind of like skinnier. Like I'm
A human skeleton.
yeah, you're human. Yeah, I mean skeletons, do well in ultra. So, but yeah, just dieting and keeping that under control, and actually trying to find, because when I was bidding for my flight schedule, I was picking overnights that I knew had good like trails to run on and like places to run like nearby. So that's helpful too, and like you know trips that got me done around like noon or 1, so I could like enjoy the afternoon, or ones that don't start until later, so I could get a good run in the morning. Sometimes these schedules, like, there's just no time, 12-hour
Yeah.
days and stuff.
Another thing I want to touch on that I think you should intro or describe is what our accommodations will be for this race, where we'll be staying.
So I went kind of all out. I remember how much of a struggle Bandera was because that park, there's no cell service. It's very out in the middle of nowhere, and like a lot of people were camping out. They got like tents, but I also saw a lot of Winnebagos and stuff. So that kind of made me curious about what I could hook onto my Jeep, and I found a nice little trailer with air conditioning and a bathroom and a shower and a kitchen and an oven and something, and rented out a campground that was like right pretty close to the starting line. So in case our loved ones have to drag our lifeless bodies back to the trailer, like we can we're at least close to like a hot shower and some food and a bed. So my biggest thing was like before Bandera, like when did it start? Like 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning?
Yeah, I think 7 if I'm not. Yeah, I think because it was right around sunrise.
It might, so it was probably 6, but just like that long drive just to get out there, like, I mean, imagine, being able to wake up right next to the starting line, especially for something like this. Like,
Yeah, when it starts at 5 a.m.
I want to have, like, if the weather's garbage, I want to have every advantage that we can possibly have, which includes a fully loaded trailer that I'm hooking onto my car.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And I'm especially
yeah.
excited that we'll have an oven because everyone knows, hopefully, if you subscribe to this channel, how much I love frozen pizza. And I will definitely be storing some frozen pizzas for post-race festivities. Because in my head, I know the reality is going to be that we're basically going to be unconscious laying in lifeless puddles on the ground after the race. But I like to think
Yep.
that we're just going to have this huge party at our campsite afterwards and invite everyone else from the campground to be like, come on over. So having the trailer, having the full kitchen, cooler, refrigerator is perfect for my idea of this post-race party.
I think it's nice. I mean, Abby's parents are coming over to watch this. My buddy Brian, who flies cargo, is coming out too, and like you said, I kind of want our trailer area to have like a party vibe because it's a lot of downtime when you wave goodbye and then it's like, all right, we'll be back in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Go have fun, entertain yourselves.
Enjoy yourselves for the next day.
Yeah.
And that's we
So,
have a pretty substantial crew for this race. What started as like a small ragtag group of kids now is a giant group of, because it's me, you, obviously the runners. My brother-in-law Connor is coming to crew. My
yep.
friend Luke is coming to run with us. And then obviously your girlfriend Abby is coming to crew as well. That was the original kind of like pot of five that we had. But now, yeah, you have a bunch of family coming as well. It sounds like my older sister and her fiance are going to make the trip out. Now it sounds like my mom and possibly my stepdad are going to make the trip out as well. So it's going to be, we are going to have that party campsite.
Can't wait, man.
Uh,
My dad did not want to come out. He actually was kind of against me doing this. He did have hip replacements like in his early 50s, and he was like a runner like me, and he was like, I told him about it. He was like, you're crazy. This is not cool that you're doing this. I was like, it's gonna be one and done. I promise. Like, I'll be swimming like right after forever. Don't worry about it.
I don't know if I told you this, and I don't know if my dad is still watching the live stream, but when he called me last year on my birthday when I was starting to train for Bandera. And I think we had just registered for it or just decided to run it. And I just remember him asking me why I was doing it was like the first time I felt like he was like very concerned, and it just sounded like the way he asked it just sounded was just like, what are you doing? Like, have you thought
Yeah.
this through? Like it just sounded
Are
like
you okay?
there
Like,
was
is this
genuine
about like
concern
someone
in the
else?
question. And I was like, Dad, it's gonna be fun, I think. But I was so caught off guard. I was just like, yeah, I mean, I thought about it a little. I think we're gonna have fun. Vince and Alexis just asked, what do our partners think of this? So I'll let you answer first while I lean to my wife and ask her what she thinks about this.
Abby, what do you think about this? So we're on the couch.
Lauren doesn't know how to participate. I think Lauren has a healthy amount of concern, similar to how my parents felt. Like she is supportive, but also like you need to be careful. Like a healthy amount of concern.
Yeah. Yeah. This was kind of like it didn't put a dent in the relationship a little
They
bit.
won't hear you.
It was a pressure point for sure because I didn't have like a trainer. I didn't see like a physical therapist or anything. I was just like, I'm just doing this. And it was kind of like the conversation when Rocky's going to fight the roided out Russian back in Rocky 4. And like his wife is like, please don't do this. Like, don't, like, he's like, I got to do it. And I got a I got a health checkup. I got a checkup. So I haven't had a trainer or anything, but I'm training kind of the same way I did for Bandera. I'm not gonna like push it to the point where like if a bone's sticking out of my leg, I'm not gonna like crawl to the finish. Like I know my limits. I know how crazy this is to begin with, but we could have a good day out there. And if we finish, then pretty cool. And if not, then not the end of the world either. Then we got a
Then we got
trailer
to
and a
do it
bunch
again.
of gear. Next year.
Yeah. All right,
Faster.
Lauren's ready to give her full insight.
I'm most nervous because I won't be there.
Oh yeah,
And I can't. I'm going to be sitting here stressed and not knowing what's going on.
she's most nervous because she is unable to attend. And I think when it was a smaller group, it wasn't like, I think she was more worried because there weren't that many people. But now also like it's going to be super fun.
Now I'm
And
missing a party.
she's very sad that she can't come, but it is her school's graduation that weekend. So unfortunately, a no-go for Lauren.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. No other questions in the chat. I think I had a few more from the Instagram. We talked about food. We talked about our crew, what we're most nervous about. We did cover what our longest practice run is going to be. Ooh, this was a good one from Alexis. Any crazy stories from things you've seen on your runs? other runners, spectators, etc. Anything crazy, whether that be from Bandera or
Uh,
from training runs.
like hallucinations maybe or that kind of thing. Like I didn't really get any at Bandera. When the sun went down, I thought I'd kind of my eyes would start playing tricks on me. I thought briefly I saw a shadow that looked like a coyote for like a second at night. Um, but no, I was actually bummed out a little bit. I was disappointed I didn't hallucinate. I'm
Hopefully,
hoping I do
I
on
was about
this
to
one.
say, hopefully Mohican will deliver for you and you can meet God.
I hope so. Well, like I'll hear Courtney Dewalter on a podcast talk about like the Moab 240 and how she saw like a leopard in a hammock, a guy with a cello on the course like playing it, and she's running by. And,
Yeah,
like
people have
I want
really
stuff like that.
elaborate hallucinations.
Yeah, yeah.
I want
I was
something like
bummed.
that. A taco truck.
Taco truck.
Yeah. See
There's
a
like an
mariachi
oasis that's
band.
not there. Yeah,
Have you,
yeah.
so aside from hallucinations, have you ever had like during training for this race or any race, any kind of crazy experience? I don't know what time of day you run. I usually run super early in the morning. So I've seen some like weird stuff happening early, but what time of day do you do your training runs? And B, have you ever seen anything crazy?
Um, I I've been trying to get out earlier. Normally, I show up around on my days off, like go to the park around like 8 and do anywhere from like 4 to 6 hours worth of running. It's quiet because I run on I have weird off days. Like it's my schedule. Like there's no weekend really. It's like just 4 on 4 off type deal. So I'll run like on the weekdays, but then there's no one there. But I haven't had like any like what kind of weird what have you seen? What
I haven't had anything too, the craziest things I've seen recently, mostly animal related. Either like people walking their dogs early in the morning who are just like bad dog owners, where like their dog is clearly anxious around people or like not well trained, and like people walking their dog just on their phone, and like we're on the same sidewalk. I'll always just run into the street because there's no traffic to try to avoid them. But like the dog will start going crazy and the person just won't even look up from their phone, and the dog is like full pulling on the leash trying to come over. I'm sure most of the time they're
sure.
friendly, but I'm just like, hey, just like pay attention. Like, what are you doing? And recently I've been telling Lauren, there's been a cat I've seen most mornings when I run that is obviously a stray, and its hair is so matted that it looks like it just has like shingles on, like its back is like shingles, like layered shingles all down its back. I did a double take when I first saw it because it looked like some weird mythical creature with like scales on its back because it's like these huge matted scale looking things. But I see it now every morning, and now it's just like a part of my run, but very, very obscure.
Jeez, man.
Ultra Dad's got to head out, but he said top recommendation to bring salt pills because it will likely be super humid, which I have never taken salt pills. I was planning on bringing them just to be safe, but I honestly don't know if I would know when to take them, and I would be worried that I would do it wrong.
I know nothing about salt pills yet.
Yeah.
And I sweat a ton. Like I get off a run and like my face is like just covered in white, and I could like salt like a plate of French fries with the amount of salt on my skin, which is gross.
So I think that's
But
probably when you should take it.
that's probably when I should do
When you're out of salt in your body. I did hear
Yeah.
when I was doing the 4 state challenge. I stayed with my coach and his wife, and his wife was telling me a hilarious story about her first time trying salt pills. So I know a lot of people who are watching are not familiar with like some of the intricacies of endurance sports, but a lot of athletes or runners have to end up taking salt pills because you sweat out so much of the salt in your body that you're no longer able to absorb water because you don't have the salt in your cells that would actually absorb the water. So you need to add high amounts of salt with the water that you're taking in so that you can actually hydrate. But my coach's wife was doing I think it was her first triathlon, or maybe it might have been a half triathlon. But so she was in the last part, the half marathon portion where you're running a half marathon, after having swam, I think it's like a 1+ mile, sometimes somewhere around a mile, and then like bike 50-ish odd miles, and then run 13.1. So she was in the middle of running. Someone had recommended salt pills to her right before the race. And she had taken one on a training run where she like hit a really low point, had started to bonk, and someone was like, "Oh, here, take this salt tablet." And she took it and immediately felt better. So at the half
Uh,
marathon, she started to feel kind of bad, and she just started popping salt tablets. And like you can very quickly have the opposite effect of what you're looking for because you just need one to like replenish the salt in your body. If you keep taking more, obviously you're going to ruin the effect because now your body can't absorb the water because all the salt in your stomach is absorbing all of the water. And so she
Yeah.
got
Okay.
very, very like faint and lightheaded and super pale in a period of like 15 minutes.
Oh
As she
God.
said, she went from just feeling like pretty good but somewhat bad, trying to correct, and then just tanking because she just started like popping these salt pills back to back to back. So that is how
And
not to ingest
I
them.
guess with Bandera, I was kind of relying on the tailwind that we were taking in to have enough
Hmm.
sodium to kind of like keep us going, so I wouldn't have to take that. But maybe if it's going to be that hot and humid at Mohican, then we don't really have a choice.
Yeah, and I know it
But
said the aid stations are going to have salt tablets. I am interested. I saw they just recently posted what the aid stations are going to carry, and I thought I mean, most of the races I've looked at, Tailwind is pretty standard in
yeah,
terms of what they offer. But it looks like Mohican is going to have a Hammer Nutrition beverage instead, and I think it might be caffeinated also. So that's something I want to get my hands on to try just to make sure that it sits all right in my stomach. But no
sure,
tailwind at
yeah.
this race.
Boo. All right. Well, I mean, after Bandera, I was like, I'm never touching. I'm never
Yeah.
adding those to the tailwind again. I
It's
hate the syrup.
so sweet. Like it's so
Yeah.
syrupy, but that's the point is because it's loaded with electrolytes and it's pretty high calories. So you're drinking your calories, which helps again just to maintain that calorie deficit. But yeah, the sweetness and just the syrupy taste of it and just drinking it constantly all day got to me for sure. Are you thinking about one thing I think I might break into in this race, but again, should probably test out beforehand, is they're going to have like the flat Coke and ginger ale and stuff like that.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think I might as it starts to get later, but I've also heard if you start drinking ginger ale, you don't have to worry about it because it's not, or I guess you probably still do because there's so much sugar, but at least there's no caffeine. But I heard like if you start drinking soda, you have to continue to drink soda so that you don't have a sugar crash. Like you just have to keep getting at least a little bit just to maintain that sugar level so you don't have any kind of crash.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. I'm pretty much. There's gonna be a point in the race where I'm just like throwing things in my face. I don't even know what I'm drinking. Like, I'm sure I'll be trying it at some point.
That's the other thing that I think is going to be so funny is like I went into Bandera, like I'm talking so much now about how I need to test out what I'm going to eat, blah blah. I didn't do any of that before Bandera. I just ate the honey stinger waffles and honey stinger gels, and then at the aid stations I just grabbed whatever looked good, which for me ended up being like 99% pickle spears, which were so delicious, especially when it was hot. All I wanted to eat was pickles, which I mean were helpful in that they were very refreshing, but also have zero caloric benefit. Like there's no calories in that, but I was just stuffing my face with pickle spears. But I think it's a good source of electrolytes, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there are going to be pickles at this race as well, which I will definitely break into.
Yeah, yeah. You can have mine.
We got probably one of the most important questions. Uh, how soon after the finish do you think we'll be able to drink a beer?
I hope immediately, right?
That's
Like,
what I would hope immediately. Like I will in like combine that with water. Like I'm not just going to switch to beer immediately. I know I'm going to need to hydrate substantially, but I
yeah.
after the 40 like the 4 state challenge on the Appalachian Trail when we finished, we brought beers to celebrate at the finish line. And I handled nutrition horribly, I handled hydration horribly, so I felt awful when I finished and I was so nauseous that I drank like 2 sips of the beer and I was like that's it. I did it like I had to because I run on beer, but I cannot touch beer right now. I just needed food and all of the water.
I run on beer's a phony. He doesn't even drink beer
Yeah.
after 15 minutes.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I hope immediately. We talked a little bit about we haven't made a decision. We got to decide on the finish line beer. We're gonna have to come up with something special. We did Sufferfest beer for Bandera because they're a huge supporter of ultra marathons. They sponsor a lot of ultra marathons, and their beers, I could be getting this wrong. I haven't had them in a while, but I'm pretty sure they're loaded with electrolytes, if I'm not mistaken. And they're delicious. They're super, super good beers. But I know we had that at the finish line at Bandera.
Yeah, I think I took like 2 sips of that, and then I don't know what I did with it. Abby drove me to a gas station. She got me a hot chocolate. I spilled it all over my lap immediately, and just like drove home with like hot chocolate in my lap. Like I didn't care. She helped me out of the car, got me to the shower, and then I slept all right. But like I don't. Yeah, 2 sips of beer, and then I was.
That was it. I do remember from Bandera. I don't think I'll have an issue with it at Mohican just because of the heat. But I remember at the finish line, I could not stop shivering. Because I think the temperature got down. I feel like it was in the 30s. The feels like temperature.
It was in the 30s. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was once the sun went down, and like we felt great while we were running, and I opted not to put on any extra layer. I put on like a light windbreaker basically over my t-shirt, and then I was still in shorts. And I remember every aid station, Lauren asking like, do you want to put tights on? Do you want to put tights on? And I was like, no, I feel so good. And then as soon as I finished, I just could not stop, like uncontrollable shivers, like the quaking of the body. Not even like, oh, I'm just a little cold. Like my legs were just shaking uncontrollably, and that took a while to get back in check.
The last aid station, I felt that because I was super warm when I got there. You know, I took in some food, I took in some tailwind, and then the second I left and started moving again, I was freezing. Like I was relying so much on my like weak little heart rate of like. But it was like 120 at that point, and then like the second I got to the aid station, it was like dipping way down, and I was like shivering when I left. But yeah, when we finished Bandera, I mean, yeah, I wasn't all there mentally. I'm glad we got a pacer that last 25 miles.
Yes, I think that's going to make a huge difference. And I don't think he was going to try to join. I don't think he was able to join tonight, but I will say, because he's been texting me, we should have a call like all three of us, just the three of us, not like a live thing or anything, but just to go over strategy and all that. But I have been so impressed with he's never run further than a half marathon prior to this. And so he's jumping from a half marathon to basically a trail marathon, which is incredibly difficult. And his training has been going super well. He's been super committed to it. And he just keeps sending me like all of his Strava updates and everything like that. And he ran a half marathon when we were in college. I don't know. I think he's maybe run one since then, but like not running regularly by any means. And it just like snapped training and has been doing it. And I'm just like impressed by his ability to commit to that, but B, committing to the race without we obviously like if we finish we get the medal, we're going to get the shirts for participating in the race and all that. Like he's not joining the race per se, like he's just there to support our attempt to finish. Yeah, I'm just like the fact that he just like I didn't even have to convince him. I was just like, hey, what do you think about running this last lap of a 100-mile race with us? And he was immediately on board. So I think that's going to be such a game changer for us.
That'll give us motivation to keep going too, I think. Like
yeah,
Luke's waiting for us. Like we can't let him down.
We can't give up because he trained just for this. I did tell him after this race, any race in like the contiguous 48 states or whatever that's called, any race that he wants to do, let me know and I'll fly to do it with him because like he is putting in a lot of work for us for this. So can't wait.
Yeah, I'll fly him out. I'll give him a buddy pass.
There you go. My dad posted in the chat that there is a beer called 100 Mile Pale Ale from Strange Fellow Brewing. So we may have to look into acquiring that. Yeah. I got to take note of that and figure out where we can get it before the race.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're at about an hour here. If anyone has any last second questions, please put them in the chat and we'll go ahead and answer that. But I feel like this has been a very successful happy hour and I feel so much more prepared for the race.
Totally, man.
How are you feeling, Todd?
I'm all right. I think the key to life for me is always having something to look forward to. And lately there hasn't been a lot to look forward to, but like this race, when you told me about it, you like ignited a little spark that got me out of the house and leaving early morning to go on these runs. So respect for going through this crazy journey with me. That I don't know. I feel like I'm in the movie 300, about to go up against the Persians, and I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll see. We'll just
That's
fight the good fight and see what happens.
we definitely will have to do a like post race happy hour, checking in on like how everything went, what went well in the race, what didn't, like hopefully celebrating the accomplishment.
Are you recording this like you did Bandera, or are you just going to do like kind of check-ins, like, hey, every 10 miles, like, hey, we're at 10, hey, we're at 20, like, that we're doing, like.
I think I'll try to do, I like that idea, like doing like a every 10-minute, just like mental state check in or just like how we're feeling and just committing to that, like every 10 miles, trying to do like an update on how both of us are feeling. But I'll also try to like record footage and stuff. I do want to put together like a nice video like I did with Bandera for this and have both of those, like one that just kind of catalogs our state, how we're feeling through the race,
Yeah.
but then also like a more artistic documentation of the race.
Yeah.
And I'll have my Connor, who's coming, does good video work and stuff too. Luke is an incredible photographer, so hopefully they'll get stuff at the aid stations at the finish line and stuff, everything too. So we'll have some good footage to catalog the event.
You need that like night vision camera to catch us losing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Middle of the night.
It worked okay with a headlamp during Bandera, so I feel like something like that we'll just try. And we'll just have to see how it goes. We have one more question that I'll end with once, but I want to touch on.
Before
Go ahead.
No,
Yep.
before that, I felt bad because I feel like I didn't get any footage of you at Bandera like run. It was a lot. There was like a lot in that video of just like you recording my butt basically like behind, especially in the night portion. So I was like, I felt bad. Like after I saw the video, I was like, this is a lot of me. It's not a lot of Ryan. Like, so I will help you out more in the video process and get some good action footage of you as well.
It's all about documenting the experience. So I don't care who's on the camera as long as we got the race footage. That's what I'm here for. But I just want to also I want to hit on like what you said because I feel like it's so true was like having something to look forward to and how significant it was once like there were no in-person races and there were some challenges and like little things like that to keep you motivated, but like eventually like it was a lot of the same and that kind of got old and got boring, and a little stale, but it's so true. Like once we signed up for this race, it reignited that like oh, now I have something to prepare for, and once again started setting goals for myself for running, and it was such a difference maker. And I mean, there's no way in hell I would have done this without being able to sign up with you running with me as well. So very excited to be able to take this on together.
Yeah, that's rule number one is do it with a friend. Don't do it alone.
Yeah, and I think I wish we just had a video of the number of times at Bandera that one of us looked at the other one and was just like, "There's no fucking way I would have made it through this without." Like, if I tried to do this alone, I would have died a long time ago.
Man, especially towards the end, you were pushing me hard. Like I was, you're probably the reason I finished in 15 and not like 17 and a half.
We were so close to breaking 15 hours. I was dying just because my first marathon was like 4 hours and like 9 seconds or something like that. And then this we finished in 15 hours and like 20 seconds. And I was like, we were so close.
Dang it. Yeah.
The last question I want to end on, because Lauren just posted it, but and I feel like we're kind of talking about it now, but other than finishing, is there anything else you're hoping to accomplish with this run? And that'll be our closing question.
Spiritual enlightenment. I don't know. Like I thought I don't know what I'm going to see out there. I don't know what hallucinations are going to happen, but what was the question again?
Just if there's anything you're hoping to accomplish besides finishing. I feel like we talked about it a little bit earlier, but at least for me, it's just the experience. And I told I think it was my dad and stepmom that I was talking to about this when I was last in Delaware. But I said, it sounds super pretentious to say, but I always think about when I was training for Bandera, someone who was talking about the moon landing. It might have been like I think it was when the anniversary was happening. So like there were all these events and stuff going on. So everyone was talking about Kennedy's speech leading up to the moon landing, announcing that we were going to go to the moon, and talking about doing the hard things because they're hard, because doing that forces you to like learn, like highlight your weaknesses, learn what things you need to overcome, etc. And like, yes, finishing is on my mind. Like that's obviously the goal, but B, just the journey that you go through in training and what it highlights that you can work on, things that you can improve on, and like the commitment that it takes to get through this. That's what I'm looking for in the accomplishment, I think, is just the overall process for getting here, and being able to hopefully be successful.
Yeah, it's that journey into the unknown, I think, for me, and doing it with a good buddy too. But being able to like after 62, sorry, dog's taking his bowl. After that 62, it's going to be like every hour after. It's this is the furthest my legs have ever taken me at one time. Like,
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
it's gonna be great. Todd, I appreciate you joining me for the happy hour, jumping on the YouTube live. Thank you to everyone who joined in. I feel like this is a great ending point. So I am going to end the live stream. Thank you all for joining in. If you don't, I hope you subscribe to the channel. There will be plenty more Mohican related content coming out. I'm posting a new video every day just leading up to the race, training, product reviews, gear reviews, all that stuff. So if you're interested, make sure to subscribe, and we will see you around. Keep thinking of new questions because I'll continue answering those in the daily vlogs, and maybe I'll reach out to Todd for some input as well. Cheers, y'all. Cheers, Todd.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.